Welcome to the Renegade Games Studios radio live show.
That wasn't very smooth.
That wasn't very smooth at all. I'm not prepared.
What was that all about?
I don't know. All right. So this is the Renegade Games Society radio live stream show. And I'm already bright red. This is exciting. It's going to be a good show. We have our fantastic, oh my gosh, super disasters.
Is the volume up on your iPad that you're using to watch chat?
That's exactly what's happening. Okay. So I am Sarah Erickson. Very embarrassed at the moment. We have Scott Gata here and Dan Keene is with us today. We are so excited to have you as our guest. So Dan, you are from the Geek, GameBoyGeek. You do a much more professional show than we do. And we are very happy to have you. So how are you today, Dan?
All right, well, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I watched your show the last couple of weeks. I was excited to see that what you guys are doing. I then called you and said, hey, this is really cool. I got some ideas for you. And I guess there was supposed to be someone else much better than me on here, but they were unable to come. So I got to pinch hit. Yay!
That's not true. That's not accurate.
We are very sad that Paul Denon, who was going to join us here tonight, fell down with the flu. He's not feeling very well. We wish him the best. Hope he gets better soon. But we're very glad to have you on our show anyway.
So
cool.
I'm going to throw... So Sarah doesn't drink, but I'm going to say that something's up. She doesn't normally drink, but I don't know. Like, do you have a cold? Are you on like cough medicine or something? What's going on there?
It's been a long day.
All right.
Oh my goodness. I'm making you do the intro next week.
Okay, no problem. I'll give it a try.
Awesome.
All right.
So Dan, we have been asking some of our fans for questions to ask you on our show, and we had some really good ones. But I'll give you some pretty easy, fun ones to start out with. So one of our fans, Sky Carlisle, asked, what is your favorite cover art for a board game?
Ooh, favorite cover art. That's a tough one.
Okay, that was a hard one, I guess. Yeah.
Probably Scythe, just because I love that world. I love that art. Everything in that game just makes me want to look at it more and more. Makes me want to like put it on my wall. Like I would probably say Scythe because that world is just so immersive just from the artwork.
Yeah, I do really appreciate that they used a legitimate real artist who's had stuff in art galleries before, and he's just an incredible artist, do all the art in that game. And I agree with you. I love it. It's just really different, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
Cool.
Strike one, Mr. King.
Hey, you didn't know this was a sponsor. You know, I know it's on.
No,
but,
no. I'm just kidding.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, mark it down, Sarah.
But let's see how many strikes I can get. How about that?
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, here's maybe one that's a little bit easier as far as not offending Scott goes. So I love asking people what they do outside of board gaming, because this is what we do for our hobby. So what do you do for your day job?
I am a longtime engineer, electrical engineering background. I've been in various different companies, like working for Motorola, working on chips that were going in cell phones, then worked on wireless transmitters that going into pacemakers inside of people's hearts and such. Now I work for a smaller software company that does data analysis in the semiconductor industry. And so I'm an engineer there, kind of a technical marketing manager now. So I kind of left the sort of engineering realm and kind of got halfway into the sales, halfway into the marketing, and and still doing some engineering stuff too. But I do that full time. So I'm a geek. I love formulas. I love spreadsheets, which is pretty common, I think, in the gaming world, right? I've also, as you see in my reviews, if I keep a game, I give it a saxophone serenade. So I play saxophone, and so for a long-standing time, before I was doing the board gaming thing as big as I'm doing it now with as much time of doing the reviews, I was in a band that was in a traveling regional band on the West Coast. where we had won a national song competition, and that from Spin Magazine. And so we got on Spin Magazine, and then we went on tour for a couple of years. And I was able to kind of like work during the day with my software job, and then be playing at colleges at night and some of their bigger events. And so, musician, engineer. I've also recently run a Greyhound nonprofit, Greyhound Rescue in Arizona as well, where we started a program called Second Chance at Life, where we actually brought Greyhounds into the prisons for 8 weeks, and we would bring our professional dog trainers in, and we would teach the inmates how to become dog trainers, so that they had a skill that they could fall back on as soon as they got out. So those are some of the recent things I've been into.
Wow, you
really
have
cool.
a lot of different stuff going on there. Some of the fans in the chat are actually asking about your Sax Serenades and how you came up with that. And it sounds like it's just been part of your life for a long time.
Yeah. So how the Serenades came up, it's what would happen is every time I started kind of getting more and more games as I reviewed more and more games. And over the course of time, it was like, well, I couldn't keep every game anymore. Like I only have a finite room. I'm in this small, like 10 by 10 bedroom here. That's like all games at this point, you know? And so I'm at the point now where like I play probably more than 300 games a year. I probably review somewhat close to that. And I can't keep them all. I'm at the point now where I can't even keep the ones that I really like. I only can like basically keep the ones that I like fall completely in love with, because when I keep a game, I pretty much have to get rid of a game. I'm on one of those things now, right? Mm-hmm. So what happened was as I would review games, the number one comment, question I would get in the comments is, did you keep it? Did you keep it? Did you keep it? And I said, well, I got to figure out a better way to do this. And I was like, well, I've got a player piano that I can program. I can play the saxophone with it. Why don't I just like do a serenade, and when I keep it, that's the way they don't have to ask. And so that's kind of how it got started.
That makes sense.
But you don't have any plans to do, have like a little musical ceremony for when a game is exiting your collection? Right?
I've actually thought about that. I have had someone contact me a few months ago and said, my husband is a huge fan of yours. It's his birthday, and he doesn't even know I'm doing this. Would you possibly do like a personalized saxophone serenade for his birthday? And I did it for him. And I said to him, and she said he just like fell off his chair. He couldn't believe it. So actually, next in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be launching my season 6 Kickstarter to help support my channel. And one of the levels is going to be, you can have me do a personalized, whether it's anniversary or birthday or whatever message with the saxophone serenade into it, personalized for you. You could say, hey, my wife loves this song. This is her favorite song. Can you kind of play something like this? And so I'll be able to do things like that for some of the backers.
Wow. That's really cool.
That's super fun.
So how did you start playing saxophone? Were you playing saxophone like, middle school, high school band and all that?
No, see, this is weird. A lot of people I get called a weird gamer for many reasons. One of them is I was a jock. So I grew up playing basketball, football, baseball. I was the captain of my high school football team. I started on the varsity basketball team. I was athletic. And so I never did the music stuff. I always liked music, but I never started playing till I was in college. I was taking engineering classes. They were kicking my butt. I mean, like all day, all night, studying formulas. My brain was going crazy. I had to take some elective classes. So I took this jazz class, went to a jazz that our instructor, I was doing so bad in the class because engineering was kicking my butt. I was like barely showing up. I was barely doing the work. I just couldn't keep up because engineering was kicking my butt so bad. So for the final, he was playing at a concert. And so we had to write about how the history of jazz that we learned had influenced what he did on stage. And so I went there, and for the first time I saw live jazz, and the bug bit me instantly, and I just fell in love with jazz. And I started buying all these CDs, started going out to live music, and I was like, I want to play the saxophone. I literally just walked into a store and rented a saxophone and said, I want to rent a saxophone. I took the saxophone home. I put it together. I didn't even know how to put it together. Like, they had to show me. I went home and I spent every free second that I had that I was not studying through like the last 3 years of my college, putting on jazz records and trying to figure out what they were doing. So I did everything by ear for the first 3 years. When I moved out to Arizona after I graduated college, I got into a 60-piece orchestra here that helped me like learn how to read music. So now I can do both reading and improvisational stuff. So it kind of happened that I just fell in love with it. And then it was like every free ounce I had, I was just immersed myself in it. And so nowadays, that I'm not in the band and I work full time. I do my channel about 30 hours a week. I'm super busy. So I don't play much right now, which is killing me. I'm hoping to, over the next year, maybe do this, my GameBoyGeek full time, which would then free up more time for me to actually do the music stuff that I really do love, because I love it. I just recently saw this the musical, The Greatest Showman, and it's like one of the best movies. Oh, have you guys seen that?
Yes.
I need to watch
it. Amazing. So I like this last weekend, I downloaded some piano sheet music for it because I play a little piano, not a lot, just enough to like get around the chords and like do stuff so that I can see what's going on when I'm playing the sax. But so I started like trying to play some of that too. So like it's always competing for my time. It's all the love of it's always there. I just like right now I can't give it the time it deserves, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we saw The Greatest Showman. So my 11-year-old, he likes weird, quirky things. So he loved that movie. And he actually asked me if we could go see it again this week before it leaves theaters. So he's playing piano, but he didn't want to take lessons. We signed him up for lessons at one point. He was learning by ear, and he listens to a song, and then he learns how to play it. And then we signed him up for lessons, and he started doing lessons, and he was bored. And we're like, no, you need to learn the basics. And so he's kind of struggling with that. But he's always sitting in the other room on his keyboard listening to music that he likes. And most recently, the key song from that movie, like he's been playing that. And he like listens to it, and then he's learning to play it by ear.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because it's actually easier to, I think, to teach the theoretical, reading the music side than it is to teach that ear and the passion for that. So if he has that and he's continuing to play what he likes, I mean, that's what I did for the first 3 years. And I ended up being able to read. I think a lot of people find it harder to go from reading to then going to the ear, but people can easily go from the ear and then learn the other stuff. So I would just continue to encourage him doing what he's doing. If he's listening to stuff and trying to figure it out, I mean, that's where I started, and it worked out for me. So I would, as long as the passion's there and he's doing it, just let him do it. Like the basics, again, it's always harder to like relearn, like to forget bad habits, techniques and stuff, and that is true. But if it's making him like have the passion to do it, I would just let him have fun with it at this point.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, you need to go see The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
I would love it. It sounds really good.
Like, I probably saw 2 movies all of last year, and I've already seen The Greatest Showman twice this year. That's how much I liked it.
Well, and the truth is, like, the story, the way it's done in The Greatest Showman is not true to history. They take a lot of liberties.
Sure.
But I think P.T. Barnum would appreciate that.
Yeah, because they cut out a lot of stuff that, it was a good feel-good movie, which necessarily wasn't the whole part of his story. But
No, he had some rough times and everything, but
for sure.
Yeah. Right. But I think he would appreciate it, because at the end of the day, he was just an entertainer.
Right.
So so it was cool. All right.
Well,
we won't talk about things that Sarah hasn't seen yet anymore.
It's fine. Speaking of passion, though, somebody in the channel is asking about your P90X obsession. You seem to really dive deep into things when you decide you want to do them.
Yeah. We briefly talked about my background earlier about being an athlete. And so like since 6th grade, I remember being in the basement with my older brother, lifting weights and doing stuff like that. And then obviously doing the basketball, football stuff. And then as I got older, when I graduated, I no longer did like those, like, baseball, basketball, football type of stuff. I got more into like triathlons, things that I knew that I could do as I got older. So I was doing like running, biking, cycling, doing triathlons and stuff like that. And then on the off season, like in Arizona, I live in Phoenix. And so like today it was like 82 degrees out. I went for a bike ride during lunchtime with the tank top on. Like, it's so nice out here. But during the summer months, it's like really hot. So I always wanted to find good ways to stay like fit, but still not burn up in the desert. So I was like, what can we do? So then P90X was really popular, right? So you get the videos, you do them inside. All you need is a pull-up bar, some dumbbells, stuff like that. And it's a lot of it's body weight. But I liked it because at first it was just something I could do inside. But now it's like the P90X3, the most recent one, which isn't like super new, a couple years old, but that one's like only 30 minutes. Like the first one was like an hour and 1 hour and 15 minutes. And that's hard to do like 6 days a week. But this one was only 30 minutes and you can just continue doing it. So I do like all of those things. Like I think the company's called Beachbody. Actually, 2 years ago, Rodney Smith and I together decided that we were going to do the newest one of theirs called Hard Corps. It's the workout that he does at military bases. And they're only 18 minutes long. but 18 minutes have never felt so long. It's like it hurts. But Rodney and I were doing it together, not obviously together. He lives in Canada, I live in Arizona. But like we were doing it, we were sending pictures of us like marking off the day, and we were sending each other encouragement and support. So I find that everybody seems to loves the idea of getting in shape, but sometimes it's obviously one of those things that's harder to do. But since it's one of those things where like, if you stay, it's much like everything in life, with homework, with your work job, with everything. If you can stay ahead of the ball, then it takes the same amount of work to stay ahead of the ball than it does for the people that are like trying to work even harder to get up from the bottom. So it's like, and since I have the athletic background, I guess I could say it's easier for me than I'd say than if someone was like sedentary for a long period of time. It's hard to get that ball rolling. So for me, it's just one of those things where I'm just always on the front edge of it. So yeah, I am super passionate about fitness, and I probably work out 6 or 7 days a week easily most of the time.
Well, so much of that is just mental, getting yourself going in the first place.
Yeah, I get some of my best ideas. Like, I don't have a lot of, like, they call it white space, times where you're supposed to like literally think very strategically, think very big, dream. And I'm so busy with a full-time job and 30-hour a week on the channel that like I don't have a lot of that white space to think of these things. I'm always like, my head is in the weeds, and I'm thinking about what 3 videos am I getting up this week. I'm working on rules videos for Sarah, and all this stuff. And so when I go out and I do work out, that is like, it's almost my forced white space, and I tend to have some of my best ideas when I'm doing those types of things. Right.
It's like shower time, when you're in the shower and you just, or driving. Like back when I was commuting a lot, I would be, I'd have a 60, 70-minute drive, and you're just on autopilot because you do that drive every single day, right? And your body just knows what to do. And then, you just start thinking. So when I have a lot of white time, that just means we're going to have a lot more work.
Well, I've heard that from designers too. I know Kane Klenko has a pretty long commute, and he always comes up with crazy ideas while he's driving, and entire games he just designs while he's sitting in the car. So I think it's kind of important to just have that time to yourself to think.
So speaking of Kane Klenko, and since I'm on the Renegade channel here, I'm curious, is there anything that's able to be spoken about that he might be involved in going forward? I know like Covert was like probably my favorite game you guys have ever put out, which, by the way, if you're watching this and you have not played Covert, go play it, because it's like, I think it's one of the most underrated games out there. I definitely don't play it with 4 your first time, because it's super puzzly and it's like your brain will explode. But he did that, and then he did Flip Ships. Has he done anything else with you guys?
Fuse.
Oh yeah, Fuse, of course, and Flatline. Okay, Flatline, sure. Is there anything, like, do you find yourselves just like, once you work with a designer, you want to continue to work with them, assuming that everything went well, like you just get a good working relationship? Is that how it typically works, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty common. We have another game that so Kane is working on something else.
Oh, cool.
But like Alex Cavern, and like lots of other designers, we tend to, things work well and we like working together. So they'll show us stuff. Jordan and Mandi are working on something new with us. So, and then we have lots of new people like Aaron, right? Like the first time that we worked with Aaron was Castell. So
right. Well, I hope you work. Yeah, I hope you do more with that, because as I was mentioning to you before the live stream started, my review for Castell is going live tomorrow. And if you had backed me on Kickstarter last year and you're part of my super secret Facebook group, you've already seen it, because it went live like a couple hours ago. So
nice.
So check that out for tomorrow, my review of Castell, which is a really interesting game about making human towers. Like, it's so crazy. I've never even heard of this. And then I Googled it and I started seeing I was watching these things and I was fascinated. Like, how many of these people do this? It was crazy. I was like, how have I not heard of this? But again, another example of you guys doing a crazy awesome theme. Like Topiary, that's back there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fun theme too.
That was good. So we're going to do a Castell tower at Gen Con and put Sarah on top.
Oh my gosh.
After watching some of those videos, it's terrifying. I can't believe they put those little kids on top of there.
Yeah, but they have helmets on. It's okay, right?
That makes it totally fine. They're falling like 40 feet.
When does that officially release?
So it is actually, it showed up in our warehouse today. So that's exciting. Yeah, we'll be announcing the release date, but it'll be later this month or later February. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So in not very long, just a few weeks. So yeah, if you want to go pre-order it or whatever, it's available to pre-order, but not quite available to pick up. But it is coming. But speaking of your rule school that you're about to put out for that, somebody was asking, this is actually Steph from our team who handles our social media and is answering questions right now. She was wondering how long it takes you to put together a rule school.
Ooh. Well, obviously it's going to depend on the game because, you know, I could do a small card game or I could be doing, you know, Clank in Space, which was like a 20-something minute video. That's a good one. For a smaller card game, let's see. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones we've done. Okay, so like there was a party game you guys put out that was about movies.
Double feature.
Yeah.
Double feature. Yeah, that was one of the first ones you guys had me work on, and that's like a super simple. That's probably as easy as it gets from a rules perspective. But that one probably still took, I'm gonna say, at least a half day's of work. So I'm gonna say 4 hours, even though it was probably a 7-minute video. And that's as simple as it gets. Clank in Space took me 2.5 full days. Wow. I mean, by the time you read the rules, you play through it, you know, ask you questions, go back and forth like that. Then it's a matter of trying to figure out the best way to teach the game, because sometimes I teach it differently than the rulebook does. Sometimes I think it does well. Maybe sometimes people don't think so, whatever. But I try to think, you know, is there a better way to teach this? You have to try to figure out, when should I show an example versus when can I just tell them what it is? Like if it's, you know, what to embellish in the rules, what not to, obviously pretty much most of the time you're saying all the rules, although sometimes if there's like player age with all like the detailed abilities, we'll just say, you know, refer to that because that'll be faster. So it's an interesting balance because you want them to be able to play the game without having to, and set up. So set up and play the game without having to read the rule book, because we all know that nobody loves reading rules except sick people like me. But you also want them to know enough to get started, but you don't want to tell them everything. So it's kind of like that balance. I tend to pretty much tell them most of the rules, pretty much all of them, but like in a way, hopefully that's somewhat easily digestible. And then we always put like all the, in the description of the video, we always put all the timestamps. So that helps them kind of get there. But they are the most time consuming videos that I do, just because everything has to be perfectly correct. There's back and forth between myself and the publishers, making sure everything's right, making some changes. But it's one of those things that takes super amount of focus, and you have to be very precise. So that's probably why it takes so long. As opposed to like a review, like I could probably shoot 3 or 4, maybe even 5 like overviews of reviews that I could in like one rule school, assuming like they were the same weight, just because I can just fly over and hit the high points on overviews. But in the rule schools, you really gotta, you know, you're teaching someone how to play, right? So it's a different thing.
Well, you do a fantastic job. Your rule schools are awesome, and I know they've helped me learn several games. So we really appreciate that you help us out with those. Yeah,
no, thanks for having me doing it. I know you like to show them like at different conventions when you're teaching publishers and retailers how to play games. You'll throw them on, and that's really cool.
I do. We actually use that a lot. So we go to several trade shows during the year where we're teaching whole entire rooms of retailers how to play a game so that they can take it back to their stores and put that on their demo table and teach customers as they walk in. And having your rule school videos is one of the best ways I've found to teach them. I've tried to do it on my own, teaching them one bit at a time, and it just takes so much longer. And at the end, they don't understand how to play the game the same way. You do a really fantastic job.
I know with some of those sessions, you know, like you guys already have the game set up, so we can kind of trim it back and maybe trim out the, you know, sometimes we specialize some of those videos for those types of events. My tagline used to be helping you find the next board game you'll love. And over the last 2 years, it's now become helping you find and enjoy the next board game you'll love. The enjoy part is the rule schools, because I just think that so many people, it's such a barrier of entry, even with simple games, that I think it just really helps people learn things. So, and I like to teach them.
So how many times do you do a playthrough before you actually sit down and do that video for it?
For a rule school?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the double feature one, we played it twice. You know, it's like it's
pretty straightforward.
Clank in Space, I probably played it 3 times. I think I played Clank in Space. But I think I had to on speed dial because that was like a special Gen Con, like hush hush thing, and we had to get it done like really fast. But it just depends on the game, you know. Some mechanisms kind of like sit with my brain better than others, you know. It also depends on how good the rule book is, you know. If I'm going through it and having a lot of technical challenges, you know, I'll have to play it more or converse more. So it just depends on the game. I'd say as little as 2, as many as 5, I think is probably the most times before I've actually like started to like put together stuff.
Yeah.
So, by the way, thank you. So actually, I want to thank you guys because you guys were actually one of the first proponents and big like backers of my rule schools that kind of have kicked this thing off. And believe it or not, over the last like year and a half, I'm almost at 100 rule schools at this point.
Wow.
Which is like crazy when I think about how much work goes into each of those. So it's like, yeah, it's nuts. I do almost one a week these days.
That's insane. So so you work a full-time job.
Yeah.
You're doing 100 rule schools in the last year, plus your regular show and all the other content that you do on your channel.
Yeah.
So when do you have, and you don't have any white time, we've established that.
Yeah, ride my bike. That's when I'll get my white time right.
Right. You get to ride your bike and have a little bit of time to think.
Yeah, and I'm married. So part of this is my wife is a flight attendant and for Southwest Airlines. And so she's literally gone 3 days a week. Like she'll leave, like, let's say on a Tuesday morning, and she won't get home till like Thursday at midnight. So what I typically do is every free second that I'm not at work for those 3 days, I'm either playing or filming or editing. And I pack a ridiculous amount into those 3 days. And then when she comes home, still here and there, I'll do little things here and there, like when she's got to run out and do errands and she just wants to, you know, be out of the house or whatever. I'll sneak some stuff in here or there. But that sort of schedule helps out a lot. Also, another thing that helps is with my software job, I get to work from home 3 days a week. So like during my lunch breaks, and you know, I'm always shooting during my lunch breaks on those 3 days too. So yeah, I just fill it in. And you might wonder, well, when do you sleep? Because I figured that was going to be the next question, which is interesting because I'm a big proponent on sleep. There's been a lot of studies showing like how little sleep people in America get, or maybe just people in general. I don't remember what the study showed, whether it was different demographics, but like I am huge on sleep. Like I get the lowest I'll get, assuming I'm not at a convention, is 7 hours. But I almost always get 8 hours. Like last night, I was up editing videos till 12:30 at night. So I woke up at 8:30 today, which might seem like super late to you people, but I got my 8 hours sleep. That's the only way that I can grind through as much as I do in a day. Is I really feel rested at the end of each day. And the working out helps too, because it makes me sleep better and it makes me feel more vibrant. And I just have all this energy that I can keep carrying all day long. But sleep is the key. Like you can't do these types of things without. So I know a lot of people a lot of people, they say like, oh, they think it's something cool. Like, oh, I could do it with 4 hours of sleep. 6, no problem. 4, I could probably get through the day. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Maybe like once, like, yeah, I'm traveling to China. I'll do it on 4 hours sleep. I get that. But like on a normal basis, like I think having a lot of sleep or 7 to 8 hours is like really good for me at least.
No, I agree. I mean, so Renegade, like we all work remotely, so we all work from home too. So, you know, getting that rest then allows me to, like, I pack a lot of quality into my day, right? It's like making use of all that time to get all the stuff that, you know, we're small companies and everybody's working at home, which working at home gives you a lot of time that you wouldn't have had otherwise, right? We're not wasting time commuting.
Right.
So I can get a little bit more sleep because I don't have to get up super early to jump in the car to drive an hour and a half to my job. You know, you should spend that time resting so that way you can actually be proficient. Because I think a lot of people during the day wind up wasting a lot of time too, right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
You're tired, right? You're exhausted. You drive an hour to your job and you're exhausted. You don't jump in right away. You go get coffee and you got to wake yourself up and stretch and crack your back and all that. So, so what route does your wife fly? Is it? She
mostly stays on the West Coast. She doesn't like the long flights, so she's always in your area. So
because we're neighbors. I'm in San Diego. Yeah, and you're in Arizona, so she flies through San Diego.
Yeah, quite often. All up and down California typically is where she goes.
So, is there any benefits to your wife working for an airline that helps make your gaming hobby more enjoyable?
Yeah, I'd say yes, because she's a flight attendant. If there's a seat on the plane, I can theoretically fly for free.
Yeah.
But pretty much anytime I'm doing anything on official Game Boy Geek business, I just buy the seat because usually I'm going to a convention and I need to be there the day before, like certain times. In our personal lives, like her mom lives in LA, and so a lot of times we'll just go out there for the weekend and see her, and so we use the benefits that way. For the game stuff, occasionally, if I'm going to an event that has like maybe it's piggybacking on a vacation or like it's not, I don't have to be there at a specific time. Sometimes, once or twice I've used the benefits to kind of get on and only have to pay like for the flight home. Cause I always know coming home is always the worst cause it's usually on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going out like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, it's possible sometimes I could fly there without having to buy a ticket. But after, most of the time I just buy them because I don't want to deal with the stress of maybe not getting there when I have business to do,
But if you're like a hardcore board gamer, it might be a viable strategy to get your spouse a job with an airline. Right?
Yes, that would be very good. Yes, because then you could, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's an airline that flies a lot of international routes, it's like Essen, Game Fair in Tokyo, like UK Games Expo.
Some serious pre-planning.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a new career for Robin.
Oh no! No, she has to stay. She's the one who pays the royalties for all our fantastic designers.
That's true.
Oh dear. So Dan, I do have one other heavy hitter question for you, and I actually blame Scott for this one. So you're a really big part of the media reviewer community, which I've always been impressed with. You guys seem to for the most part, be very close, and you all really support each other and do a great job of trying to get more people into media creation. So Mandi and Suzanne are a couple of wonderfully delightful ladies that I happen to know you're friends with, and they just started doing more stuff with the Dice Tower, and they're kind of having a little bit of a rough time with that. How do you feel about what they've been doing and how they've been trying to support gamers in general and kind of what's going on with their situation?
Yeah, and when you say the rough time, you talk about like the backlash of just people in general and women in gaming and stuff like that. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, yeah. So Suzanne Sheldon and Mandi Hutchison. Yes, I've known them for a long time, and we've been talking about media stuff for many years, right? And so I definitely am close friends with theirs. We talk about stuff. I probably, out of all the media creators out there, I'm actually probably closer with those two than any others, just because we talk frequently, and we talk about real, not only just gaming stuff, but like real life stuff as well. So they're very close friends of mine. I mean, so I'm going to have a biased opinion, but obviously, they've been sort of trailblazing these paths for women in gaming, and I remember like Suzanne's like, I started doing it because nobody of women and nobody of color was doing it. So I just wanted to do it. And that was what she did. And she has such a strong influence in the industry, and she knows her stuff. She knows games like nobody's business. I mean, she knows about these crazy little games out of Japan that nobody knows about. And she can tell you every detail about them, right? Like and I always think that like, whenever you look at someone's work, like, their work should stand for themselves. And she's a perfect example of, yes, she is the real deal. And there shouldn't be, I mean, in my opinion, there shouldn't be other things that would make you, because the comments that you're talking about, the rough time things, they're almost never about the content. They're always about something else, which almost always is more of a reflection of the commenter than the commentee, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe there's something in their own lives that they're dealing with that we don't understand why they're lashing out, and that's okay. I understand that sometimes that's how people work, and so it's not always about that. So, but now Mandi, also she's kind of obviously a little bit newer in the media business than Suzanne and I, but also again you can tell just by her the way she talks about games that she's also the real deal. She's also Canadian, so she's super polite, right? not that she's speaking of Suzanne. I'll get back to Mandi in a second, but not that Suzanne's not polite. Just to show you something, when I turned 40 last year, my wife was talking with Suzanne, and when we were going through Seattle to go on my 40th birthday cruise to Alaska, she set up this big thing with Suzanne where I showed up to Mock's boarding house, which was like the best board game cafe I've ever been to. And Suzanne had the whole thing. She brought in these awesome cupcakes. She like secretly invited all my family members that weren't supposed to be there. So like Suzanne's like amazing in those regards like that. So it's not that Suzanne's not polite. She's amazing. But like Mandy's like, she's Canadian, right? So she's like super polite and she's got like that super nice, super caring about everything. But yet at the same time, she still, again, is the real deal. So I'm really happy that Tom's given them the platform to raise them up, because I think they both deserve it. They're both very hardworking people in the industry. And I just hope that they just continue to gain more influence, because I think they do great work and they're friends of mine. I want to see them do well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like a lot of the criticism seems to not be about the content, right? And that they're creating. It's something else. I think like, we would like to see people kind of, right. It's the thing that you learned in the first grade. Follow the golden rule, right? Like just treat people the way you want to be treated. If people would just think that before they start typing or say something, it'd probably be a much nicer place. I don't know. It's kind of distressing to us because we've worked with the two of them as well. And it just doesn't seem to be, it just doesn't, there's no place for it. It just doesn't seem to be appropriate. It's a little disappointing because in the game world, the gaming community overall is such a fantastic place. So I think it makes it even more disappointing when you see things like that in our world. When we see it out in the real world and politicians behaving badly and athletes doing things, like that's so far removed from us. But when you see things like that happening, kind of in your backyard, it's a little discouraging. It's a little disappointing sometimes. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Tom say a few times to me that he could take any criticism of that he's wrong. Mm-hmm. You said this wrong. You played this wrong. Like, okay, those are criticisms. I get it. Those are fine. But as soon as you make it personal, that's when you just you have to draw the line and say, okay, I'm not taking this. B, I don't need to listen to this. And internet's even though this industry is very helpful and very friendly, it's still heavily moved by the internet. And unfortunately, when people can be, on one side of their screen, they tend to say things that they wouldn't if they were in front of your face, So criticism is a real deal, especially in the media industry, because, I mean, I could show you how many comments I get a day that are negative, but every one that I get that's positive, I save it in a little folder that's called testimonials. And anytime I see, like, I'm not feeling good that day because of how much negativity I've seen, I will just open that folder and I'll just read a few of those. And for me, it's like, this is good. It's okay.
Yeah. All right. I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
What is the origin of the name, the GameBoyGeek?
Oh, cool. That's an easy one. That's a softball, buddy.
All right. Well, I don't know the answer. I want to know.
That's okay.
Maybe all our viewers know.
So when I was about, I want to say 6 or 7, I don't know the exact age. I love games like most kids did. Loved Clue. Clue was my favorite game as a kid. I love deduction, and I actually still like Clue today. I mean, I have many more games I like better than that, but I still love Clue. And so I used to play all the board games. So the normal, the ones you would think were in the days back in the 70s, the Clues, the Monopolies, the Sorries, all that stuff, card games, board games. And I would literally just, every night, I would stack all the games up over my head, and I would be kind of like walking and bumping into walls, and I would go up to the first person I saw and say, "You want to play a game?" They would usually say, "No." And I would go to the next person. "You want to play a game?" "No." "Do you want to play a game?" And I would just keep going until someone said it. And then when they had people over and gatherings, I would just do it to everybody until I got someone playing a game with me. So this was in the either early 80s or the 82-ish, somewhere around there. My dad nicknamed me the Game Boy, and this was before Nintendo came out with the Game Boy.
Oh, you should sue. The original Game Boy.
Right? So my dad always jokes that I was the original Game Boy. He always says it these days. So even when we go over there today, obviously I'm bringing games. He's like, "Here's the Game Boy," and it's always been his nickname for me. And so I always had an affinity with the name, the Game Boy. And then the geek stuff kind of obvious between the geeky stuff, the nerdy stuff, and the engineering geeky formulas, spreadsheets, all that sort of stuff. So that kind of just fit. So it was just basically a nickname that my dad gave me because I would just not give up till someone would play game.
Well, that's awesome. So now I have a whole new perspective on you, and now I have an idea for a promo card for your next Kickstarter. So we'll save that for later. So what's next, Sarah? What else? What are we doing?
Well, so we do actually have a few other very exciting things to show our fans this week. And Dan, you are welcome to stick around for an unboxing video if you'd like to see the new stuff. So we wanted to show everybody our copy of Lucidity, which we just got our proof copy. Essentially what happens is the factory makes a few copies of the game and pulls them off of the line before they pack them all up. And they send those to us so that we can double check everything. So Scott received his copy of Lucidity and wants to go through that and double check that all the right parts are in there, that everything looks like it was printed correctly. And then we give the factory the go ahead to actually put those on a boat and ship them to us. And I'm particularly excited about this game. I love the asymmetry of it. So you actually start out as a dreamer and you are trying to overcome your nightmares by rolling dice, push your luck. But if you push it too far, you become a nightmare and come back into the game and try and affect the dreamers at that point. So I can't wait to see this because it has 80 custom dice in there. So go ahead, Scott, and show us what's in there.
All right, let's see what's in this box.
Flatline?
Yeah, but they're smaller in this one. So here we go. There's Lucidity. Very scary box. Here's the back of the box. So I don't know if we'll see. So it's funny when they send me proof copies. Sometimes not all the components are in there. There are times where we approve components in stages, and they'll send us components as they're going through the product, the development process, and then at the end they'll send me what's left. Sometimes, or sometimes it has all of it in there. So we'll see. I might be missing something out of here. I don't know.
It's always exciting opening proof copies.
That's right. Because I've never opened this before. It's the first time. So this is really cool. So this is from Shannon, and he put this whole thing together. And on the inside box cover is an FAQ and overlooked rules. So like a little cheat sheet. He printed the inside of the box cover. I thought that was really nice.
That is cool.
Yeah, he did a great job on that. So we have that.
That is smart because almost every time I play a game, I open it up and I put the box on the side of the table face down, and then we start playing. So you're going to naturally have it there and be able to check that out. That's really smart. I like that.
So here's our rules. Very straightforward. The rule book is about 16 pages, counting the back cover. But there's a lot of examples in there of how to play and how to set everything up. So it's lots of visuals. Some cool art. Then you also get in the box, so you get some prints because he has a lot of cool art. So he actually put some prints in there of some of the monsters. So you get that. It was just a nice little added bonus. He's got those in the box.
I think that's especially cool with this game because the artist who did all of it was actually a tattoo artist, which is unusual in our industry. Usually people are just board game artists and they kind of have enough work to do that all the time. But this guy is a professional tattoo artist, which is neat. So
each player gets, there we go. Each player gets one of these. So this is your playing board, right? It's done on cardstock. So each player gets that. And as you roll your dice, you're going to fill in things here. So you're going to put dice in here for power, and as you hunt and exhaust. And then eventually, if you succumb to the nightmares and become a nightmare, you are going to take on the persona of the nightmare and then play against all the other players. So the fronts of these are all the same. The backs of these are different. So we have the Lord of the Depths on the back of one. We have the Lady of Envy. We have the Lord of Imprisonment and the Lady of Primeval Fear. This is a very happy, uplifting game. And then we have, here's our nice dice bag. In case you might not be able to see it here on the video, but it has kind of like a nice highlight of like one of the characters on there. I forget what the process is called. Leisha's probably yelling at me right now as she watches, but I forget what the process is to put that on there. It's like, oh, silk screen. And then, yes, lots of dice in this bag. So 80 dice, all different, translucent with all the little character symbols. There's green, red, blue, yellow, and I think that's all the colors if I remember right. I think I do. So yeah, 80 dice. Then we also have the cards. So these are the nightmares, the nightmare of temptation. There's one side and the other side. The nightmare of the depths. Nightmare of envy. Nightmare of imprisonment. I'm going to have nightmares after playing this game. Nightmare of primeval fear. And then we also get, these are helper cards for the players. There's one for each player. Goes through the Dreamer's turn sequence and then the Nightmare's turn sequence if and when you become a Nightmare. And then some helper stuff on the back for the different dice. So, and then there's also some stones in here that one for each player that you'll need throughout the game. Yeah, everything's here. This is, we actually okayed this one to hit the water a few days ago. So it's on the way. It's a really nice little game. So we're kind of happy that we picked this one up. And the artwork is really cool, and it's definitely different for our catalog. Especially the theme is we haven't done anything this dark, I guess, theme wise. So, but yeah, it's really cool. The artwork on the box is phenomenal.
I think that's kind of a theme for Renegade. We always do things you wouldn't expect.
That's right. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the thing I get most excited about. It's like, oh, we've never done that before, and people will go, "What are they doing now?" We're gonna definitely do it.
So if there's something we haven't done yet, and you're really excited about it, you should let us know.
Yeah. No. All the emails. Yeah, so fun. We should have, I think early copies we'll have for the reviewers probably in a couple weeks.
Yes. Yeah, those are coming out very soon. And speaking of reviewer copies, we did just get all of our Castell reviewer copies out to everybody. So we're going to be seeing that review from Dan Keen very shortly, tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Castell.
So what is your address? How do people find you online? What's your channel and all that?
The easiest way is just go to GameBoyGeek.com, and then on the top right, there's little buttons for every place that you could possibly want to find me. All
right, there you go. GameBoyGeek.com.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
So Castell is dropping tomorrow?
Yep.
Oh, all right. Nice.
Very nice. We also have another game that's about to go on the water, and that is Byzanz. It is a very small box game that is an auction game. So it's a little bit older. So this is a game that we're replaying. It's been around for a while, but this is one of the best auction style games out there. So if you have maybe some family members you're trying to get into gaming, or people who just really like small card games that you can throw in your bag and bring with you while you're traveling, this is great for that. So definitely start looking for Byzanz. We're about to receive, we just received our reviewer copies for that as well and just shipped them out this week. So you should be seeing that show up soon as well. So I have one other thing. So Scott, would you like to give a few updates for Overlight while I get ready for our game component guessing game?
Sure. Oh, and then somebody in the chat asked me, are those comics on the shelf? Yes. Those are just graphic novels, not actually comic books.
Oh,
graphic.
Man.
Yeah, let's not
get
crazy. That's right. Okay, so Overlight. So just the other day, Kwanchai Moria turned in the final book cover to the core book, and it's so awesome. I was saying the other day in our chat that during the day I just take a break and I bring up the book cover and I just stare at it for a while. It's like going to a museum, and just sit there and find your happy place and stare at Kwanchai's art. So that's been really fun and exciting to see that come to life, and we're getting ready to tease it. I don't know where it is on Sarah's schedule when she's going to actually show everybody the final cover. But then in the next few days, the final, not final, but one of the biggest milestones of all the rest of the art is coming in from him as we kind of populate the book. So we've been laying out the book in such a way where we put placeholder art. So Quan Chai's process was he did lots of very, very rough sketches of where everything goes in the book. So that way the layout artists could start working on the layout of laying out the text and the graphic design and everything else. And then as the final art comes in, he can plug all that art in. So the book cover is phenomenal. The next thing that I'm really can't wait to see is for each of the shards, the different worlds in Overlight, Quan Chai is doing panoramic paintings of them and not digital. He's actually doing paintings. So I'm personally really looking forward to that because those are going to go on the wall. So I can't wait for that. Yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. He was like, "Are you sure you want paintings?" And I was like, "Yeah, I really, really want paintings." So we'll have those to share with everybody pretty soon. And I don't know when we're going to show you the cover of the book. That's a Sarah question. I'm not in charge. It's above my pay grade.
Relatively soon.
Okay. All right.
It is very cool. I was super impressed. The more I look at, the more I like it. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's great. So what'd you get? What do you got over there?
All right, you guys ready for this? So
are we allowed to guess, or is this only a chat window thing? How does this work?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a game component, and the first person to type into our chat the correct name of the game will get to win a copy of that. So if you're not in our chat, sorry, you can't participate.
I'm in the chat. I've got it right here.
Oh, if you can figure this out, I'm not going to be very impressed.
Dan, if you recognize it, text me and I'll put it in the chat and we'll split the prize.
It's a solid plan. I like it. All right.
I'm going to put it in the Google Hangouts chat. That'll be private.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sounds good. All right, here we go. Ready?
Hold it closer to the camera.
And I got it right.
Oh, now I see what it is.
You see that?
Yeah. Dan wins.
Well, you have a slight advantage of also being ahead of everybody
else. Right. There's a delay, cheater.
Ooh, funny. Yes. So this fantastic game is, in case nobody has figured it out quite yet.
Have they got it?
Oh, here they.
Did someone get it? Let's see.
I haven't seen anybody post about it yet.
Got it.
Oh, my chat's behind. Oh, we have some good guesses, but
John Paul got it right.
John Paul wins again. You won last week, didn't you, John? That's pretty exciting.
That's pretty
so yes, this is Docmus, and it actually just came out this week. So we're excited for that one. Also, the expansion for it was released, Return of Arafel. And this is one of your little pieces that you get to put on the board. You get 3 of these each round to place.
So Colin, like I saw John Paul's answer come up and Colin's answer come up almost simultaneously, and they're time stamped like the same. So we should give one to Colin too.
Yay! You both win.
All right.
Exciting.
And by the time the game gets there, my rule school will be live and they can learn how to play.
There you go. Nice.
Fantastic. That'll be awesome. Did you did a rule school for regular Docmus, right? But not for the expansion yet.
That's the regular one. Is I sent the final version to you guys today, so we'll probably get it live next week.
Oh, sweet.
That's very exciting. Very neat. Well, thank you everybody in chat who was participating and guessing, and it looks like a lot of you actually did know what that was. Just need to get your typing skills a little faster for next week. Better internet, go to the coffee shop. Maybe that'll help. So the last thing I had on my agenda for tonight is, after thanking Dan for being here, you've been so wonderful, very fantastic guest, and our very first guest ever.
That's
yes.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll have to have you back again once we actually know what we're doing later.
I only want to come back when you say them wrong in the show and then get read. That was fun.
Awesome.
If Dan waits until we know what we're doing, it's going to be for like our 10th anniversary.
Well, we have another poor victim coming on next week. And so that is going to be February 7th at 9 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Pacific time. That is next Wednesday. We're going to have Paul Denon, designer of Clank, with us to answer all of your Clank questions. He is really going to have a lot to talk about next week. So we're excited to have him on. Hope that he's feeling better and gets over his nasty illness by then. And we really appreciate all of our fans for coming and hanging out with us too. You guys have been great. Lots of good questions.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. We will see you guys next week. Have fun.
Bye.